Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well known and a respected coach from Denver, Colorado, USA, Mr. Salvatore Manzi. Salvatore, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here.
Thank you. Salvatore is a communications coach. So, Salvatore, my first question is tell me about your own journey and what was the inspiration for you to focus on becoming a communications coach?
Thank you. Yeah. My father was a speaker at conferences, and my mother facilitated events. So between the two of them, when they would come home from one of those events, they would be so lit up and excited. And I
Mm,
thought, this is me. I want to do this. I want to have that same enthusiasm. However, the first time I got up on a stage, my voice pitched so high that
mm,
it lost. I lost my
mm,
voice completely. My
yeah.
body froze. I had to wander off the stage
Mm,
ashamed. And
mm,
I set out a course to figure out what had happened. What I
mm,
discovered is for people like me who are more introverted, more data driven, more analytical minded, the common public speaking approaches don't necessarily work. So I
mm,
studied psychology, neuroscience, organizational behavior to understand what it is that makes communication work for people like me and to connect with other audiences.
mhm.
And for the last 20 years, I have been coaching people with those principles and strategies.
Fascinating. And based on all the work you've done, what are some common communication breakdowns you have seen and how do you address these?
The most common communication breakdown is when a speaker fails to create relevance for their listener. My
Hmm.
number one principle in communication that I teach is you, then me. If
Hmm.
I can begin by speaking about you, your interests, your purpose for being engaged with this topic, your
Hmm.
hopes, your dreams, whatever it is,
Yeah.
then get to my agenda. I
Hmm.
create that opening, I create that rapport. When we fail to do the you then me, there's a disconnect. And that
Hmm.
is what causes a breakdown in teams.
Hmm.
Uh, the second, and I kind of want to add on here, there's a second part with teams. There's a failure around what's called the curse of knowledge. Are you familiar with curse of knowledge?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Little
The
bit.
idea, I'm so familiar with my work, I don't remember that somebody not familiar doesn't
Correct.
understand context. So in teams, some people will begin speaking from their area of expertise and fail to make the connection that their listener isn't following. So
Hmm.
if they can follow a you then me to begin and they can create a contextually relevant message, there's
Hmm.
less breakdown in communication around teams.
Hmm. Well said. And what does clarity look like for a leader? And how do you help
Hmm.
them achieve it?
I love this question because it really gets to the heart of leadership for me. Clarity for a leader comes when a leader is able to speak from their own values,
Hmm.
when they speak from their why. Why are they invested in what they are saying?
Hmm.
And this can't happen without self-awareness, self-awareness around their actual set of values. One of the transformative moments in my own leadership path was when I sat down and identified my top five values. And
Hmm.
it's so important that I actually have a free resource on my website that you can download a worksheet and discover your five
Hmm.
values so that you can start operating from that as well.
Hmm. And what distinguishes inspiring leaders from those who simply manage well?
Ah, I've had both, and I would say that the inspiring leaders have a way of keeping their eye on the vision, the future vision, what's possible. They're keeping a future focus
Hmm.
and not letting the little setbacks take us down. They're actually using it as learning opportunities to
Hmm.
drive us forward. However, the manager that's just managing is checking boxes, keeping track of, doing more of
Hmm.
a project management rather than being a manager or leader. An
Hmm.
inspiring leader is going to keep us focused and keep
Hmm.
us inspired on that vision.
Hmm. Can you give me an example for my viewers and listeners of an inspiring leader?
Yes. I had a client who was in data in a healthcare organization.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges that she had was getting people to get the actual work done in terms of creating the systems that would process and make the data accessible to
Mm-hmm.
the practitioners, but also helping people understand the importance of accurate data, good data in, good data out. And what she was able to do is continually come back to the team and use simple phrases, good data in, good data out, to
Mm-hmm.
keep tracking them on what the
Mm-hmm.
vision is that we're aiming for while tracking the progress and updates on the different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was able to create that vision and accountability, she was able to lead that team to quite a big success in the last year, actually.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Salvatore, what's your process for helping leaders craft messages that resonate deeply?
Mm. Thank you for this. Whenever I'm working with a coach or a leader, my approach to communications is threefold. There are
Mm-hmm.
three pillars. First is the content, second is the delivery,
Mm-hmm.
third is presence. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
break it down just real quickly.
Yeah.
Content. How are we structuring the vast knowledge that we
Mm-hmm.
have to share in a way that actually resonates and connects with our audience?
Mm-hmm.
Once we have our content set, and neuroscience and psychology tell us what formats to put that in, and I
Mm-hmm.
created frameworks for those in my book, then we can deliver it. And delivery is how do we use our voice, our facial expressions, our gestures, our movement, our posture?
Mm-hmm.
How is how we're delivering it adding to and giving meaning to the content. Those two are the practice places.
Mm-hmm.
You practice, you get better on those two. The
Mm-hmm.
third pillar is presence. This is where the real work comes in for leadership
Mm-hmm.
because this is being driven by all of the beliefs and experiences that got a person to where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And where are those beliefs holding them back or supporting them?
Mm-hmm.
Textually, a person gets intimidated in this arena, but not this
Yeah.
arena. Why? What's going on? When we can unpack that, then these two fall into place and they become what's known as an authentic and inspiring speaker.
Mm-hmm. And since you spoke authentic, my next question is, how do you guide leaders to commute authentically, especially when they are under pressure?
Yeah. Thank you for this because I don't think there's anyone out there that hasn't experienced a certain fear
Correct.
when it comes to those high stakes moments. You know, a
Mm,
decision's going to be made, money's on the table, your job might be on the table. And
mm,
how do you show up with authenticity and comfort? And that to me is what confidence is. When
mm,
authenticity meets comfort, that's when a person has a presence and confidence. Number one, reframe the rush.
mhm,
It is perfectly natural to get that rush of energy at the start. Reframe it not as fear of
mm,
failure, but as
mm.
excitement around sharing something that you truly
Right.
passionate about,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Get on a roller coaster, your body is going through an experience, and you can determine it as fear and scream or fun and laugh. It's up to you how you're going to reframe that rush before you're
mm,
delivered.
mm,
Second option that I would offer is to not about me. Think about when that person gives you that sort of quizzical look or the sour face or they come back with a response that doesn't
mm,
feel right to what you've just offered.
mhm,
Remind yourself that 90% of what's going on in their head has nothing to do with you.
mm,
And what I offer for anybody that's having to show up in a high stakes moment, use the mantra, not about me, not about me, not about me, not about me, to not take that personal pushback or that
mm,
face as an attack or something personal, but as an opportunity to get curious. Ah, what's going on?
mm,
Is this material or my presentation activating something in you that you want to talk further on?
mm,
Or is there something going on outside your world that you want to address right now so that you can take care and be fully present here, whatever it
mm,
is?
Great
So
response.
reframe the rush and not about me.
Yeah, yeah. And, one often has heard a lot about the importance of storytelling when
Oh,
it
yeah.
comes to good communication. I'd love to get your perspective on the role of storytelling.
Oh, the role of storytelling is huge. There is such an importance to create our information
Mm,
to a story in order for it to click with our listeners. I would
mm,
offer this. Metaphors move minds.
mm,
Metaphors move minds. You might have all the brilliance in as a genius of whatever it is that you're doing, but if you're not connecting it with your audience in some way that paints a picture with a metaphor, analogy, or an example,
mm,
then it's not going to stick. It's like
mm,
me handing you a blueprint. Here it is, but not telling you that this is your future home, two
mm,
stories, and that lovely oak tree that you wanted in front, and a little pond with a koi. Once you paint the picture, then the blueprint becomes relevant. So metaphors move minds. It makes
mm,
your data relevant
mhm,
and memorable.
mm. How do you align leadership messaging with organizational values and culture?
Hmm. This is a good one. And I have a client right now that is going through a massive reorganization. They
Mm-hmm,
have purchased another organization and they're trying to bring two cultures
mm-hmm.
together.
Together.
How do
Yep.
you align two organizations with separate cultures into one? And to your point, this is not done overnight. Often there's a strategy officer who's focused on
Mm,
finding the best and there's workshops to surface what are the values that want to be present in the new created culture.
mm-hmm,
Once you've identified the culture and based on the values that your organization wants to live,
mm,
individual leaders need to give their buy-in.
mm,
They need to take time individually and understand what is their individual buy-in to
mm-hmm,
each value. And if they're not able to adjust and adapt to those values, they need to
mm,
figure out what their truth is and going forward. Otherwise, the organization isn't going to shape into the
mm,
culture that you want to.
mm.
But that's how I
Yeah, yeah,
would
yeah.
begin.
Very well said. My next question is, how can communication fuel innovation and adaptability in teams?
Hmm. Fail fast and speak about it often.
Mm-hmm,
I would recommend to any leader wanting to encourage innovation to
mm,
make a Friday failure
mm,
talking point, a habit in their team.
mm,
And it's not just talk about what didn't work. Let's talk about what you learned from it and how you
mm.
move forward and
Yep.
set the tone as the leader of what that failure was
Mm,
so that you can demonstrate that, hey, we are a culture that values people innovating and trying and learning from it and going
mm,
forward.
mm. Moving now on to trust, what are some key ingredients for building trust within teams?
Hmm. Trust, I believe, is, well, I heard this analogy that trust is built one marble at a time. You put one marble in a jar
Correct.
at a
Yeah.
time, each time. So it's trust is built incrementally over time. It's showing
Mm,
up consistency consistently, it's also taking responsibility. And in my book,
mm,
one of the strategies I offer around presence, you cannot exude a presence out there of confidence if your own house is not
mm,
clean. If there's something that you know that you're not taking responsibility for or that you're not holding yourself accountable for, it's going to impede showing up with full
mm.
confidence and authority in a
Yeah.
situation. Track your own integrity and accountability and show up with full transparency around your growth edge,
Mm,
your what your lessons learning are,
mm,
and you can then become a greater inspirer of trust within the team.
mm. And in order for trust to be to blossom in any organization, it's important to have a very safe and inclusive environment.
Yes.
How do you help leaders to create such an environment?
There, this is a personal passion of mine,
Mm,
and I think it comes from growing up in a conservative town in Kansas and then traveling the world as a nomad for the last 20 years and experiencing all the different cultures and
mm,
recognizing that assuming positive intent is harder than it sounds on the surface.
mm,
But it needs to be the mantra of creating an inclusive culture.
mm,
Assuming positive intent would be number
mm,
one. The second thing that I'm offering, especially right now, I work with a lot of data-driven tech leaders,
Mm,
scientists, financial advisors, people involved more in data.
mm,
And people that are involved in that kind of world tend to be more analytical and thinking in their minds. So one thing a leader can do to create a more inclusive environment
mm,
is what I call the 10-second rule.
mhm,
When asking a question of your team, before eliciting a response, take 10 seconds.
mm,
Take an introvert's mind up to 10 seconds to fully form a response.
mm,
And if the quickest response in the room is the one that's always getting the rewards of attention and responses, their value is not going to be brought to the team.
mm,
So, one simple tip I would offer is give the 10-second rule.
mm,
Before eliciting any responses, have people write down their answer, have
mm.
people turn to their partner and discuss it. Give yourself 10
Yeah.
seconds before eliciting an important response, and then you're creating an inclusive environment for
Mm,
those of us who are more data driven.
amazing. What does lasting change look like in a team that you have worked with?
The lasting change. Oh, okay. I worked with a team that came to me because they were highly siloed. They were
Hmm.
each in their own little silos and not understanding what was going on. We had a team offsite. It was just a half day offsite where we took them through a series of activities that began learning cross-functional partnerships.
Hmm.
And what we instilled in that system is to start creating a cross-functional partner,
Mm,
buddy. When I launch a project in mine, I need a partner from another function to
mm,
partner with me as an eyes in the room kind of thing. That created greater buy-in. We're 2 years out from that, and
mm,
siloing no longer happens. The team is all talking about a greater inclusivity and
mhm,
higher productivity. So it starts with a simple change and intentional direction towards creating it
mm,
and then tracking it on a 6 to 8 month basis
mm,
to see how we're doing and going forward.
mm. Amazing. Salvatore, we've spoken about communication, spoken about storytelling, we've spoken about trust. I want
Yeah.
to now talk a few questions for you on mindfulness.
Oh, my favorite.
How does mindfulness enhance a leader's presence and effectiveness?
In every way. I mean, let's
Hmm.
be honest. It like intentionality is critical as a leader and awareness, and I call it self-awareness, room awareness, and other awareness
Mm.
is what creates a great leader.
Yeah.
Can't do that if my mind is all over the place.
Mm.
I have different mindfulness practices myself, both meditation and physical.
Mm.
And mindfulness to me is when I can take the moment to be fully present to what is happening in the
Mm.
moment without my mind chattering.
Yeah.
And I would offer to any leader out there, if this is a challenge for you, create a system of agreement such as, look, I can give you 2 minutes of undistraction focus.
Hmm.
Tell me what you want to. Because
Mm.
almost everybody can do that. Build yourself up to 5 minutes.
Mm.
Find ways to block off 5, 10 minutes for those focus moments.
Hmm.
Then you can create the mindfulness to be present and create that ripple effect within your team.
Mm. And you give me one interesting tip, but what mindful design practices do you introduce to improve performance?
Ah, so part of my work is mindful design,
Yeah.
meaning how does the environmental space impact the
Mm.
team work? And what I would offer is this. Everything in your environment is impacting the way you think and the way you
Mm.
feel.
Mm.
Some people prefer a busy environment, some people prefer a quiet. Choose the one
Mm.
that works for you. But everything in your environment is influencing how you think and feel, and that's going to
Mm.
drive your ability to achieve and succeed.
Mm.
So, mindful design is intentionally creating a space
Mm.
that creates the best thinking and feeling space for a person to do their best work. And it's going to be individual. This is one thing that cubicles is helpful for.
Right.
And I worked with one client who wanted to face the wall,
Hmm.
which is not essentially comforting because you don't know what's happening behind you. So we created the wall, but we put a
Mm,
little mirror here so he could
mm.
still see what was happening behind him, but that way he could stay focused with just an eye of something.
Yeah.
So little intentional changes to your environment will shift the thinking and feeling and allow you to be more successful.
Mm. Thank you. I have time for two
Yeah.
more questions for you. How do
Yeah.
leaders balance emotional intelligence and decisiveness in your model?
This is a challenge to find both the warrior's edge
Yeah.
and the leadership empathy, right? Where do we do it? And on my own leadership path, I was in charge of a 4-day offsite for 200 people, and I
Hmm.
had to assign roles. And there was something in like day 5 or 6 of planning where I realized I can't please everybody. I have to make a difficult choice for the unpopular decision. So the offer I would have into the leader out there is ask yourself, what's the unpopular decision I have to make today?
Hmm.
And accept it. And know that you have the capacity to maintain connection with whoever the unpopular choice impacts in the way that they don't like, and that you can still work with them, but that your
Mm.
job is to know that you can't please everybody and make those unpopular decisions when they need to be made.
Well said. And my last question for you, Salvatore. In moments of team or leadership crisis, what grounding techniques do you recommend?
Mm. I do have an uncertainty framework to
Hmm.
use when communicating in those moments. It's also available on my website resource page. But essentially, when a leader is in that moment of crisis or change, what your team needs to know is what we know and what we
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
What is it that you are committed to? And what is it that you think? And what do you want the team to do? Give them something other than just wait for more
Hmm.
information. Give them
Hmm.
something that they can do. But the most important part of this is tie it all back to a higher vision. We're
Hmm.
going through this right now, but our vision, our goal is this. So, what we know and what we don't know is this. What I'm committed to is this because this is what I think. Here's what you can do,
Hmm.
and this is why we are doing it.
Hmm. Very well said. And on that note, I want to say, Salvatore, thank you so much for speaking to me. We covered some amazing ground on four different topics: communication, storytelling, trust, and mindfulness. I loved your 10-second response principle that you shared with all of us. It reminded me of what I was taught when I was young in the corporate world, that if you ever want to send out an angry letter or an email, write it out, leave it overnight, and by tomorrow morning, you will see it's changed completely. In today's day and age, the 10-second response gives you enough time to think about it. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.